ready? If you'll raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Christopher Granchi,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter of the City of Newton Falls,
and the Charter of the City of Newton Falls,
that I will not make any expenditures
that I will not make any expenditures
of public money otherwise than for
adequate consideration
and efficient service
and efficient service
to the City of Newton Falls,
to the City of Newton Falls,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
by any consideration
by any consideration
except that of merit and fitness
except that of merit and fitness
in the appointment
in the appointment
and discharge
and discharge
of employees,
of employees,
and that in all other respects
and that in all other respects
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
the duties incumbent on me as a member of council for the City of Newton Falls from September 7th, 2021,
from September 7th, 2021,
according to law,
to
which I've been appointed,
which I've been appointed,
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
Okay. Congratulations.
This one's yours.
Here's another one, Tess. What's left here? You want me to take one back in case you need it?
I don't need it. I need a copy of that too. I'm going to need a copy. You know what? Let me just take this and I'll scan it and send it to Janice.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'll give this. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Judge. Congratulations.
Hey, psst. Psst. Hey, Judge. Do you want your mask?
Yes, I do. And my keys. Which I had in my hand.
Councilman Granchi. Falls Council meeting to order. If you could turn off any devices you have, or at least set them to vibrate, and stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Precious Lord to God, we just call on you to give us wisdom, direction, and support. Help us to work together and grow together as one body as we do your business and the business of Newton Falls. We do pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Okay, anytime you're ready, Kathy.
Bariak.
Yes.
Krupp.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Splitzer. Present. Granchi.
Here. All right. Special presentation, Mrs. Julie Lemon and Elena Billock.
Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. So this week is the 20th reunion, or anniversary, shall we say, of 9/11. And the school gave the 7th graders, and in fact it was Miss Marlette, gave her 7th grade social studies class last year a assignment on to either write an essay or to write a poem about 9/11. And Elena, my daughter, last year wrote this poem. And she never wrote a poem before in her life. And as a mom, I kind of knew that the essay skill wasn't exactly where it kind of needed to be yet. So she went for the poem. But I never, from kindergarten to 7th grade, seen her get into an assignment so deep. And she watched the World Trade Center movie with Nicolas Cage in it, and she watched the clips that her teacher gave her to watch. And then I saw her on YouTube seeing these pictures that were alive, and I'm 40, so yeah, I was 20 when it happened. She's like, "Mom, did this really happen?" I said, "Yes, babe, it did." And I just watched her go with this assignment and view all these pictures. And she got into this assignment and she wrote, for me as mom, I'm going to be a little biased, say the absolute most beautiful poem. And for our first time writing a poem for such an occasion, we wanted to share it with you. Because I had seen and heard that some are wondering why council would want to work with the schools and why the schools should work with council. So Elena's going to give everybody a reason tonight. Ready? Here you go.
A time of terror remembering 9/11. It was a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, then everything changed as terror flew by. First Tower 1, then Tower 2, what came next, nobody knew. Fire and police crews arrived on the scene to chaos and mayhem as if it was a bad dream. Sirens wailing that could be heard all around as the world watched in horror when the towers came down. The avalanche of dust that filled the air left all who remained so full of despair. The pile of rubble became a mass grave as bodies were scarce, only 20 were saved. We would band together, our country would unite. To defend our homeland, we will join the fight. The towers, the Pentagon, and Flight 93, lives that were ended so needlessly. Through the flames, through the smoke, through the heartache and pain, we remember each soul, we will call out your name. Thank you.
Because we have a hometown boy. Elena, give me the other one. Mr. Mayor, could you let me come up, please? Can you come up, please? I remember where I was. I do. Do you remember where you were? I remember standing next to my dad when the buildings came down and thinking, oh my God, all those people. It's been 20 years, and a lot have lost their lives fighting for our country. And Marilyn, your son Ryan, serves our country, and Elena hasn't given any copies of this to anybody, but we want to present it to your family and thank you for Ryan's service. And Mr. Mayor, Elena wants to present this to the city as a remembrance. Thank you. It was in my belly when it happened.
Thank you very much, Elena. It takes a lot of courage to, walk up there and share your heart. And, anytime you have anything like that in life where you're a little bit scared, don't back off, do it scared. Thank you. Okay. Public comments. First public comments are limited to agenda items. Name, address, 3 minutes unless previously requested for additional time, and we have 2 individuals. Mr. Richards, if we could do the additional time first, okay. Mr. Richard Curlin is the first individual that called in for additional time.
Well, I think it's just wonderful to have a full council. It really is. This is just really exciting to see that we are possibly on the right road for everything. Mm-hmm. I have basically just a couple questions concerning some of the ordinances. I saw the ordinance regarding our interim city manager and something that we would call hiring some people call it a headhunter group to inquire as to the possibilities of hiring a new city manager full-time. And I guess my question would be why we would need to hire a professional group to do that. I mean, there's several places we could advertise to do that. The other question I have, there was a lot of conversation beforehand amongst the community that perhaps what we should do is to have a vetting committee of 8 to 10 people that would vet a lot of these applicants and then provide city council with whatever number they would decide on. Let's just say 3. And then city council, of course, would do their job. But I was wondering why we were doing it, because right now our interim city manager is working with no pay. So that saves the city a lot of money, and I don't know that she's not doing a fantastic job. I would think to bring a new person in now, whatever time frame council had in mind, would not be fair to that person you're bringing in because of the changes, because of the new council. I mean, it's quite feasible that things could even change more in November. So that would be my question, why we're resorting to paying a headhunter group to do that. Now, of course, you don't have to call it a headhunter group. You can call it different employment agencies. But there's a city manager magazine we could put in, and I'm sure our clerk has a lot of experience on where to advertise for that. I would hope that when the decision is made by council, that they would give a lot of thought into hiring someone who's got some skin in the game, somebody that hopefully has the qualifications you're looking for and is from this area. I would hope personally that our interim city manager would ask to become the full-time city manager, but that's just my preference. The other question I have is the ordinance on the vaccines and the masks. The question I'm asking is what power would this have? If the state or the health department or the national government comes in and says they're going to do something different, why would we want to run legislation? I was not for legislating that everyone had to wear a mask. But the way I was brought up was less government, the better. And that's just my feelings on it, and that's the question I have. I mean, is this just something to say we feel this way and it should be that way? It doesn't seem that it would have any teeth. But again, that's a question. But I'm excited for the council to do what they need to do to achieve things and better this community. I'm excited about it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, and the last individual with requesting additional time was Miss Julie Lemon.
Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. I would like to address council on resolution 24-2021, resolution 29-2021, and resolution 30-2021. And one thing I had noticed in reading it is that all three resolutions seem to have the same supporting documents with minor changes in the signature areas. 24 had Ms. Wolford and the title of acting finance director, which that one didn't seem to be right. And I noticed that that was also tabled because she was never voted by council as the acting finance director. So then it begged me to question, where did this alternative tax budget come from? Then I also want to address council on resolution 31-2021, and I'm at a loss at this resolution. What I don't understand is why we would bring in an interim finance director from another community when we have a more than able, capable, fit, willing finance director with 2 CAFR awards and more than appeasing background. Well, I'm sure that this gentleman is more than capable of doing the job. It was in fact Miss Anna Musson who turned this city's finances around. We were not even deemed audible in 2014, and she got us above that mark and beyond. So, this means I want to bring up the following sections of the charter. And now, it's been an argument. Article 3, Section 12, which is interference with appointments, and Article 4, Section 2, Part B and Part I of the city manager's duties, and the duties of the finance director. I'm going to bring all those up. So, I know a lot of people feel that Article 3, Section 12 applies to this situation, but in fact, the charter actually contradicts itself. So, what if I told council that Article 3, Section 12 and Article 4, Section 2, Part I were both voted and entered into the charter on the same exact day? 11/5/2013. So where I'm at with that is they were both approved on that day and voted. So if that is the most recent amended on the topic at hand, which one does council comply with? Since one refers to council not interfering and the other directs the city manager to honor all employment contracts, which when it comes to discipline, it must be in line with the employment contract. To me, that sounds a little loofy because Ms. Munson's contract states that except conviction of felony, she cannot be removed. What is our city manager to do with this situation? It seems like an impossible situation, and I know Pam has been working very hard. Do you just roll the dice and choose because they both came at the same time? Part B of Section 2 in Article 4 instructs the city manager to honor all contracts and ordinances. Well, call me crazy, but I do believe that Ms. Munson's contract had its own ordinance number and was passed by council last year as an emergency. So I think per the charter, the answer is pretty simple. We need to return Ms. Munson to full duties and let her continue to do a great job. Nothing taken away from this gentleman from Silver Lakes. From what I understand, he has quite a impeccable and substantial history in finances, and I'm sure, and I think he has a big background in electrical, like the electric parts of it too. But I think we need to bring Miss Anna back. We need to bring her back and let her continue to do a great job for this community like she has done since July of 2016. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Richards, did you want?
John Richards, 212 Albert Street. There's two items on tonight's agenda under new business that I want to briefly bring up. And the third item is ordinance 2021-16. And I have no problem at all with the body of that ordinance. Our interim city manager, I have great respect and trust in. But I do not like the fact that it's brought up as an emergency. The building is not burning down, the roof is on the building, and at least 4 of the councilmen up here at one time or another have said they would not vote for emergencies unless they were truly emergencies. So barring those kinds of circumstances, this is a bad step, not a good habit. We don't want emergencies for convenience, and we want to build credibility. This is a new council that has a lot of responsibility on its shoulders, and a part of that responsibility is restoring trust in what you say. And you can't call one thing something when it is not. And so I would like you to consider that. And the other item is number 10, this motion to direct the interim city manager to use a professional search service. If council in its wisdom passes this, I would like to see them have an amendment that says that qualified local people can apply for these jobs, for this job, and be considered. And because I'd hate to see local people blocked from applying for these jobs when they could possibly just check off all the boxes of everything we need. And I'd prefer to have someone, if we could, if they have the qualifications, I like my friend Santa Rick's words, that have skin in the game. But if there is no such individual, then I want somebody professional. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? All right, if not, then we'll move on to reports and start off with Ward 1, Mr. Zimmerman. Do you have anything for us?
Yes, sir. On the 24th, I attended the Heritage Accord meeting at the community center. It was a very educational meeting. They talked about where they were headed and the direction and how they've come. On the 21st, I attended the Cars and Coffee. Nate McMurray was the one that got this started. I hope I'm not stepping on his toes, but when I spoke with him, he said that he would like to have one more this year, and possibly this being an ongoing event, possibly every single month next year. So something possibly to look forward to there. And it had a nice little turnout to start. Wasn't a great, huge turnout, but it was a nice start. B Squared Coffee was there, serving the coffee, providing the coffee. So, and when I came out, bought coffee from them and supported them. I appreciate it. On the 22nd, I attended the Browns game with the 4th of July committee. I was asked to go with them to serve Bloody Marys and push a dessert cart up in the suites as a fundraiser. On the 17th, I attended the fire board meeting. Just an idea of how things are heading with the fire department. Through July of this year, in July, there was 191 runs, excuse me, with 1,249 to date. Last year, 2020 through July, they had 1,044 runs. So that is 205 runs above schedule. On Facebook, you might have seen pictures of the Copperwout fire that a bunch of districts responded to. We were one of them. It was quite a thing to behold with all the different districts responding. There was also another mutual aid in Paris Township for the house fire. They applied for a $43,000 firehouse subs grant, no matching grant. I haven't heard for sure if this was received yet or not, or if it was approved, but they have received a $3,700 grant, an Ohio EMS grant. This was received and used to replace several iPads. The chief had some issues with the tires on his truck, so we had all 4 of his tires replaced. The next meeting will be coming up on Tuesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. Oh, right before the meeting tonight, I had a phone call from someone within the ward. Both had a compliment and a slight little complaint. The compliment was for cutting back the trees along the covered bridge. I guess she hasn't been out there recently, just went out there, saw it, and wanted to say how nice it looked, how it opened everything up. And I want to say what a great job that was done, opened everything up on the sides of the covered bridge. And the issue she had, complaint, had to deal with all the signs and the devil strips around town. She was wondering if we could do anything about that, clearing all the signs from the devil strips. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bariak, you have anything for Ward 2?
Yes. We had an economic development meeting. Not to say much more, we're in negotiations. When I can tell the people something one way or another. But right now there's a lot of negotiations and we've just got started. Okay. It went very well, I think. Then I attended a police meeting. And we had the chief in there. We discussed some things, maybe some changes going forward. When the budget comes up, we're going to be looking at some other ways besides maybe buying a new cruiser, leasing one new one every year, because some of these cars are getting very, very expensive to maintain. So $10,000 ones. We're going to look at that in the budget. Also, I attended over at the Community Center for the Heritage Foundation. Sandra O'Brien was there. Mrs. Frenchco was there. My council person, Mr. Croft was there. Mr. Zimmerman was there. I was there. I can't remember who. Pam. Oh, cut my arm off.
Tessa was there too.
I'm sorry. Pam was here. I did get some useful information. Right now, we're looking to see where this can all go and see if we can get some grants and help move this forward, this project forward with the community center. The other thing that I did over the weekend, I took my sunshine law training. I passed. It is a very informative 3 hours. I did learn a lot from it, and hopefully I'm prepared to not break sunshine law or meeting act. There was a lot more than just the sunshine laws. It was Mrs. Splitzer can elaborate on that, but I'll hold the rest of my comments until after. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Splitzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
I sure do. I also attended on August 24th the Heritage Accord event over at the community center. I was there, John. And there were lots of other, invited elected officials, and I know Colonel Meade was there. It was a very, very nice event. And I left that and I came zooming back over here to this building because I also had a Park and Rec meeting that night. And at that meeting, we also had a special presentation from a young girl. She's a Girl Scout. Her name is Jocelyn Showers. She is working on one of her major projects on behalf of Girl Scouts, and she's going to be working on the Everett Great House Memorial Park over in the East River Gardens area. And a couple other things that were also discussed were Parks and Rec is looking at perhaps replacing some of the benches in town. You know, it's been many years since the benches have been replaced, so that is something that's going to be one of those ongoing type of projects for the time being. And while I'm on it, I'll just go ahead and mention that the next Park and Rec meeting will be Tuesday, September 28th at 5:30. I attended an Audit Finance Administration Committee meeting with Mr. Kropp, the mayor, and Mrs. Pretty. I don't remember what day that was. And then I attended, I believe I met September 1st with the Verley representative about the condos over at Verley. They're looking at doing a road dedication project, and I'm sure we'll be meeting on that again too. We're just kind of getting together and getting the ball rolling. And then I also spent time this weekend doing the Ohio Attorney General Sunshine Law training, and I got my certificate. And then, oh, one more thing I will mention on behalf of the Heritage Accord. Their Pluck a Duck event is going to be held on November 7th. I believe it's from noon to 3. The Pluck a Duck is November 7th, noon to 3. That's all.
All right, thank you. Councilman Granchi.
Yeah, Ward 4 actually has a report.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Ward 4 has a report this time.
What's that?
Ward 4 has a report.
Okay.
On Saturday, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for Eagle Creek Tactical with Councilman Kropp and Councilman Zimmerman. Excuse me. I wish owner Dan Skinner all the best. I also went after that and walked the business district and introduced myself to all the business owners and managers. There were a lot of issues that came up. I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Stimpert about zoning. The garbage has been lackluster with getting collected. It's apparently supposed to be done twice a week, and we're lucky if it's done twice a month. A lot of them ask for increased police presence on Broad Street because of speeding and loud vehicles. And street sweeping not being done reactively or proactively. It's being done reactively. People need to call before we get out there with our own equipment. If we own it, we should get out there and do it. I've noticed a lot of overall positivity from the people I spoke to in having a representative who went out and talked to them, and that's not to throw any kind of shade at anyone, but they were very excited. I've also been doing a lot of work with Mr. Colosimo and the Newton Falls Area Commerce Association building, getting that ready to go. It's looking great. Really excited to see where that goes. That's all I have.
Nice. Mr. Kropp, you have anything at large?
I do, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I will say going last, you guys all stole pretty much all of my thunder, so everything that you guys pretty much listed off are a lot of the things I was able to attend as well, which is exciting that there's, that the representation here in town is being able to participate and be involved with, things that are happening in the public with, whether it be business or just the public in general, which is great. We've had several meetings. Again, things have been flowing smoothly. I've spoken to members of the community. I've had constituents reach out with not only issues, with a handful of issues, but also with suggestions and ideas, which I think is something that is different or a little bit new or might be new to some people to actually have people reach out with ideas and suggestions that we can work with as a council, and I'll try to go into more of those detail and work with the city manager to implement some of these ideas. As far as just collective, we've got some sidewalk issues in a lot of the different wards, and had an individual reach out to me with an idea to potentially have a collection of sidewalks fixed at the same time and maybe bid that out, so people aren't paying individual, having an individual company or concrete business come out and do their sidewalk, and then have somebody else right down the street have to get somebody else. Maybe do it collectively so we can get all of the sidewalks or a good portion of the sidewalks done systematically. So that's been one issue, and then also have some meetings set up with individuals from the electric department and the water department, and a couple other members of the public to discuss some concepts and some ideas for the rates and the opt-out fees and those kind of things, to have something more to bring to the public and try to solve those issues as well. So that's kind of where we are with that, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. City manager, do you have a city manager report?
Yes, I provided each of you with a report. It's pretty lengthy. I don't know if you want to go through it or if you had a chance to review and have any questions. Yes.
I mean, I've looked it over. I don't know if everybody else here, if you have any questions or comments, for the city manager.
I have a question. I kind of want to go back a little bit. If we can go back to August 13th, you sent a letter saying that Ms. Julie Smiles is going to be providing administrative support. But yet what is her title? What is her duties? Is she being paid? Is she a contractor? What is going on with this position?
At this point, she is not an employee. She is a 1099 vendor. And we are looking at, she has not been paid at this.
Pam,
Turn your microphone
turn
on.
your microphone on.
Thank you.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
He wasn't hearing you back there.
Oh, I wasn't looking at him. She is not an employee at this point of the city. She is just a 1099 employee or vendor. So we probably will need her for a few more weeks yet as we transition. She is doing a lot of work as far as computer systems and making sure things are being updated. We've been finding with the different departments that some of them do not have updated computer systems to be able to communicate with the offices. We're looking at transitioning some things to different, like for example, we're looking at paychecks. The systems that they have will not accommodate those type things. We are looking at calendars, like time off calendars, where they can all be integrated into one place and their systems will not accommodate any of that. So Julia spent a great deal of time handling that and trying to figure out each department, what their needs are as far as computer systems.
But has she signed a contract or anything yet?
No, not at this time.
So she hasn't signed a contract.
No.
Has she had a background check? Has she been cleared for this kind of IT work and access to all of our computer software and everything else?
She does not have access to computer
You
software.
just said she's doing IT work.
She is checking the systems to see what type of computers they have. That's not getting into the computers. It's looking at the systems, talking with department heads to find out what type of systems they have.
But she's not being paid yet, so we have no idea what she's making. We have no idea what her duties are.
No, not at this point. We know what her duties are and what she's done.
You know,
but it's not been outlined. Right.
So how can we have an employee like this working?
She's not an employee. She is a 1099
Has she been
vendor.
cleared? Has her background been checked in order to receive this type of information that she's receiving? Thank you. That's all that I have.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, has any individuals reached out prior to just now and inquired about the status or any of the questions that have been previously asked about this individual in any way, shape, or form? Have you been officially asked about this?
No, what her duties are, no.
Okay, thank you.
Not
That's all I have, Mr.
officially, no.
I'm going to tell you what, the city manager takes care of the day-to-day activities of the community. I'm very thankful that Ms. Smiles is here because Ms. Purdy was left a mess, what she walked into, and to have somebody to come in and help her out, and there's ordinances that give her the direction to be able to do everything that she's doing. She's above and beyond going and doing well for our community, and part of my report that I'll be giving later on is the attaboys basically that our new interim city manager is getting. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate the decisions that you've made and some of the tough decisions that you're put out there to make. Does anybody else have anything for the interim city manager? Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
I would just like to make a statement to the public. There are a lot of things going on right now, investigations, audits. It's a tremendous, tremendous amount of work. And I will say one thing, Mrs. Pretty is handling it most admirably, excuse me, I'm tongue-tied now. Also, there's a thing coming up about the emergency pay. I'm not for emergencies either. But when I found out Mrs. Pretty is willing to not take a pay except for some little expenses, I about fell over backwards because I'm used to, it didn't operate that way before. As a matter of fact, what I found out is that a lot of the work that the city manager should have done, it was farmed out. So I'm willing to let Mrs. Pretty continue. I think we're moving forward. I want the public to know that we're moving forward.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for the interim city manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to commend Ms. Pretty, Ms. King, and Ms. Miles for being able to get everything prepared for me the day after I was appointed so that I could most adequately be prepared for the position that I was taking. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one more thing. We received in the office today, it's a news release for a student from Newton Falls High School, Kaylin Donnelly. She was inducted into the National Society of High School Scholars, which I think is a very impressive organization. So to have one of our students inducted into the society, and it's a lifetime membership, which that's a great accomplishment for one of our students. So I just wanted everybody to have that.
Mayor,
Yeah.
may I have one more address?
Yeah, let me make sure that Ms. Spletzer does it. Did you
Thank
have
you.
anything before?
Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bariak.
Also, I would like to thank Mrs. Pretty we have two other people very qualified that stepped up for the fire board, and she put their resumes in. I thought it was very good. We're going to be visiting that here tonight. I plan on making a motion, so I want to thank Mrs. Pretty for that too.
Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and give what I have. I don't have too much here tonight. I was able to, Saturday, to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony for new business, Eagle Creek Tactical Store. If anybody doesn't know where that's at, it's over by the Shop and Save. Really nice guy, really good business, and I'd encourage you to stop over and check it out. If you're not a gun owner, by the time you leave there, you probably own a gun, because he's a really good guy, and I'll tell you what, he could sell me a horsepower, I guess. He's that good of a salesman. But secondly, attended a meet and greet with State Senator O'Brien along with Mr. Kropp at Robbie Lee's. You know, good conversation. It's always nice to have Sandra O'Brien in our community she bids, for our community as well as the area. Not only that, had some really good food there at Robbie Lee's. Was invited and attended the Heritage Accord meeting at the community center with the council individuals and different people from the community, as well as talking to a lot of people. I had a lot of good food there again too, and so I'm kind of letting all my suits out because they're getting too tight because of all the good food. But attended the economic development meeting, and policy on that is we have a individual that I don't know if you want to call it negotiating with right now, but we're just getting a lot of answers and feedback to see what we would need to have the individual come into our community, and to where we could look at a situation and have it beneficial for his business as well as the community in Newton Falls. And that's that's what we want. We want people here running businesses and they profit. That's why you go into business, but we also want it to be a win-win situation for Newton Falls also. And that goes along with a lot of individuals I've talked to. I go out and go door to door, and I make sure that different events that I go to, the community that I talk to, residents and friends. And I'm going to tell you what, I've heard a lot of positive feedback from the individuals up here, as the individuals working in the community, and just excited in the direction of the community. And I'm hearing different individuals even that have been residents, have been hesitant in the past of maybe investing in the community and businesses and different things like that. They're thinking, you know what, things are kind of smooth and settled, maybe it's time. And I got the best compliment I could ever get the other day. And I said, we used to watch your council meetings, but they're just getting boring, And I said I was waiting for that day where the most interesting thing we had is what type of grass seed we going to plant in the park, and we're just about there. And that's all I have. Changes to the agenda, I don't believe that we have anything. approval of previous minutes. I'm wondering,
Wait, I do think there should be a change to the agenda.
okay,
Under unfinished business.
is normal, and somebody make a motion on that, and if that passes, then fine. If not, then somebody else can add to the, I guess, if somebody wants to make a motion to add the other two names to the agenda, we could do that under new business.
I would take it, I would keep it where it's at, remove it from the table, and then you can discuss it, or you can amend it, or you can pass it at that time.
Okay, and then does anybody want to maybe make a motion under new business to put the other two
Yeah,
names?
you could do it right there.
Right there?
Yeah, you could
Okay.
remove that from the table, and you could either make the motion to adopt it, or you can make a motion to amend.
It would need to be on table first and then amended if somebody wanted to amend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so when we get to item number 4, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just the next quick explanation. That motion was made prior to these individuals, to my knowledge, submitting their resumes or submitting their letters of interest, so
Yeah, it was.
that's why, hence the tabling.
All right, under approval of previous minutes, does anybody have a problem with us accepting them all as one, or is there any problems that anybody has with any of the minutes, since there's 5 different ones?
I say we do them all together, there's 5.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the meeting minutes for August 2nd regular, August 4th emergency, August 9th special, August 16th regular, and August 30 special? Do we have a
So
motion?
moved.
Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, if not, if Mrs. King wants to call for the roll.
Mr. Kropp?
Aye.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Abstain.
Mr. Bariak?
Yes.
Okay, minutes accepted or approved. Public hearings, we don't have any. Let's see what I got here. Okay. Unfinished business. Ordinance 2021-13, if Mrs. King wants to go ahead and read that.
Well, that's tabled until
Yeah, that's
11:15
tabled.
unless you want.
Okay, until 11:15, that's right. Resolution 24-2021, and that one right there was the one we had signature issues on that. Are we going to just get rid of that? Is that what we're going to do on that one, since we have a replacement under new business?
I would like to make a motion to bring it to the table to discuss it, and then we can vote on it and get rid of it.
Okay, Mrs. King, if you could read it.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Mayor,
Need a motion to remove it from
we
the
need a
table.
motion to remove it from the table first.
Tessa made that motion.
Tessa made a
did that.
motion.
I seconded it.
Okay, want a second? Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we're calling.
I would like discussion.
We
This
need to
is the
take a
one-
vote on that motion to remove it from the table.
We have to vote on that motion.
Oh,
We have to vote to untable it.
Yes.
There's no discussion for tabling, is there?
No.
No.
Okay,
We
we're
just
just
have to
voting
vote to
to
take it from the
untable
table.
it. Okay, so,
So, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Kropp?
Aye.
okay, so it's untabled. And now we want to, if somebody wants to make a motion to remove it, isn't that what we're?
Discussion.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to discuss it. Well,
We need to make a motion.
Okay, we have to make the motion
Make
to
the motion
remove
to
it
adopt,
first.
and then you can vote
And
it
then
down
we'll
or
second
up.
it, and then we'll discuss it. So if somebody wants to make the motion to have it removed, and then second it, and then we'll discuss it. Understand?
No, I would make the motion to adopt it and then discuss it.
Oh, no, I don't want
And
to
then-
adopt it.
No, and then you either vote it down or you vote it up.
Okay.
You can't make a motion
Okay,
to vote
yeah.
it down.
All right. Yeah, just make a motion to adopt it, second it, discuss it, and then you vote, and if it fails, then it's gone.
Right.
Okay? You understand?
don't we just make a motion to bring it to the table to discuss?
Then you're going to have to make another motion to do something with it.
Well, we had to untable it, so now we have to
It's on
bring
the
it to the
table.
floor.
We've
on the
untabled it.
table.
It's on the table to be discussed right now. That's
Right now.
how it should be. It should be untabled right now. This should be on the floor. As you read it, we should be able to discuss it.
Because I believe originally it was made a motion to adopt and then you tabled it while the motion was on there, so you're okay,
Okay, so any discussion?
now that I think about it.
Where's Joe at?
Oh,
I would like to speak on this one. This is the one that was signed by Ms. Wolford, and when I got to looking at the different documents that we were given in our packets, this particular resolution had almost verbatim, word for word, similar language to another resolution that we're going to be discussing later, but it also had similar documents to another one. So it was very confusing, and it just seemed like things were mismatched. You know, this resolution 24-2021 is just a mess, and it needs to be just gone away so that we can deal with both of the items properly when we get to resolutions 29 and 30. Because resolution 24 is improper.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. If not, we'll go ahead and call for the roll. And if it passes, it's moving forward. If we have more no's than yeses, then it's gone.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Spletzer.
No.
Thank you. Granchi.
No.
Bariak.
No.
Crop.
Abstain.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
All right, so it's gone. All right. Resolution 25-2021. If Mrs. King, whenever you're ready, if you want to.
That's tabled until the 20th also.
Yeah, that's tabled till 9/20. We got all these tabled.
So it'd be motion number 4, motion to appoint Patty Kennel to the unexpired term in the Newton Falls Joint Fire District Board commencing immediately and expiring 12/31/2023. It was tabled till this meeting.
Okay. Do we need to untable that, or do we amend that to add the other names? How do we want to handle that?
It comes off the table at this meeting, so you can do whatever you need to do.
Okay. What type of motion does council want here? There's other names. Do you want to...
Is it on the floor now, Mayor?
We have to make a motion to put it on the floor.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, so any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
I would like to amend this to have interviews given to all the candidates before we make a decision on this.
Okay. Okay, let me see the...
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
7th, the 20th, if we want to see if the city clerk or something like that could call the 2 and see, or the 3, and see if they could be interviewed at the next council meeting. You want to do that, if Mrs. King?
At what time?
I don't know. At the beginning of the meeting, I would say 6 o'clock, and we just bring the 3 in there.
Excuse me, but why interview? We haven't interviewed for any other.
I can't hear you, Mr.
We haven't interviewed for any other positions. We didn't interview for the Parks and Rec Committee. We didn't interview for the Fire Board before. Why do we need to interview now?
I mean, I
We
guess...
don't interview for committees. We never
I
have.
guess we don't have to interview. We'll just make motions then. If somebody want to make a
We can
motion...
interview for the Parks and
All
Rec.
right, then we won't interview.
People.
Okay, we won't interview. Somebody want to make a motion, then we made a motion, we're on the floor.
I'll withdraw
here.
my motion for the interviews.
Well, yeah, it's not there.
I make a motion, I'd like to make a motion then.
Okay, hold on. We have this motion right here is on the floor for Patty Kennel. If it passes, then Patty Kennel's on the Fire Board. If not, if somebody wants to make a motion to add to the agenda for somebody else, we can do that. But either way, there's discussion for Ms. Kennel to be on the Fire Board right now.
So moved.
It's already on the floor?
It's already on the floor. Is there any more discussion before we call for a roll?
Yes, the reason we tabled this was because it was said that it wasn't posted anywhere, but it was posted on our website the day after the initial meeting when I announced that the position was available. Everyone said up here that it was not posted anywhere, but it was posted. It was posted on our website. Everyone up here said it wasn't, but it was. So I move that we have Ms. Cannell, the very willing person, very well-educated person, someone willing to step into this position. I move that we go forward with her in this position.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on for 1 second, Mr. Bariak. Ms. Spletzer, Mr. Crop, Ms. Grant, or Mr. Granchi, is there any other discussion here? You're first.
I haven't seen anything from any of the applicants.
Mr. Crop or Ms. Spletzer, do you want to weigh in before Mr. Bariak takes his second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make one comment if I may.
Yes.
I will say that when this was tabled, we only had one applicant or one person that showed any interest whatsoever. And in the time following that, we obviously have had multiple additional people show interest in the position. So the fact that it was tabled and additional time was allowed, seems like it was a beneficial thing because more people were aware of it, more people were made aware of it, and more people applied. So I think that was a good decision. That's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Blitzer, did you have anything before Mr. Boriak takes his second address?
No, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
Since this was tabled, there were two people that are very highly qualified, and I feel the one that has the most qualifications, if I'm going to amend it tonight, I'm going to vote this down because I found somebody that has a tremendous amount of service and a tremendous amount of knowledge of the fire department. And I'm going to, if this has to be voted down, or can we, do we vote it down, or can I amend this any other way, sir?
You know what, I can't think of any other way I can't think of any other way that you amend this to include another person because it's for one spot. So you'd have to take this motion as it is, and then if you wanted to look at somebody else, then I suppose you would look to add that to the agenda.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we vote this down, that's what the council chooses, we can put a motion on the next time to either one of the other ones or her. But I'm not going to go any further with this right now till I...
Okay, is there any other discussion before Mrs. King calls for the roll?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, would that remove Ms. Kyle from consideration if we vote her down at this point? That doesn't seem fair.
You know what, it would remove her for tonight if we don't vote somebody else in, then I suppose somebody else could, within a certain amount of time, I'm not sure if you don't pass a legislation, and then there's an amount of time, I don't think you could put it back on the next meeting.
Correct.
Right, that would be my question. So I would suggest that we table this until we can get everyone's applications and then we can actually look at this from a neutral standpoint.
I mean, if that's fine with council, Mr. Zimmerman said he wasn't real happy with that idea, so.
What's that?
Table it until you get the other two. I
You
mean,
should have had them, you should have had them in the city manager's packet. Did you get that?
City manager's packet. The other two.
I have one piece of paper with just her name in it and saying that she is qualified elector in Newton Falls.
Okay.
I don't know everyone else. I have nothing else for that.
I mean, as it stands now, we're voting for Ms. Kennel unless somebody wants to amend the motion to set it differently for interviews or whatever you want to do. I mean, if we don't hear something within about 2 seconds, we'll have Mrs. King call for the roll. All right.
Well, I thought that we couldn't amend to set the interviews. We have to vote on this as it appears on the agenda.
Table it.
Or we can retable it, then it's going to come back again as the same exact thing.
Right, we don't want that. So we better just vote it up or down.
Unless there's another motion made to appoint somebody, to name somebody else.
All right, so Mrs. King, if you want to call for the roll.
Mr. Granchi?
Abstain.
Bariak?
No.
Crop?
Abstain.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Sputzer?
No.
All right, so I'm trying to look it up. I'm trying to read.
2 abstentions, 2 noes, and 1 yes, so it didn't pass.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mr. Fritz's arithmetic here. Okay, it doesn't pass. Okay. All right. Does somebody want to make a motion for one of the other candidates before we go into new business?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Okay, what would you like, Mr.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Terry Kuntz. Mr. Kuntz has had 30-some years of service for this community. He knows the department in and out. He's well respected by it. And when I saw he did apply, I couldn't believe it because I thought he wanted to take the retirement road, but he still wants to give back to the community. I'd like to nominate I'd like to put a motion that we appoint Mr. Terry Kuntz to the fire board.
Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, but aren't we past changes to the agenda?
Okay, here's the story here. we're adding this with, if we have 3 votes here, and it'll take 4 to pass it, so
I thought we passed the section where we add things to the agenda.
we're good.
Excuse me.
You don't have the floor. I just said you
So you're
don't.
saying we're good.
I said you don't have the floor is exactly what I said. I said you don't have the floor is exactly what I said.
But I just want to be clear on what your position is, sir.
I said you don't have the floor is what I said. We have a motion, we have a second, and this is on the
So
table.
your position is we don't need to follow the agenda.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor? Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor, please?
yes.
In reference to adding agenda items, something that's not with previous notice can be added to the agenda at any point.
Yeah, I know that.
2/3 majority vote.
I know
So I'm
that.
just trying to clarify.
That's
Mr.
why
Zimmerman,
he knows. He knows.
So
he knows. He doesn't.
anything- it can be
He doesn't
added.
need held by the
We
hand.
can motion to add things to the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Mrs. King, if you want to call for the roll.
Bariak,
Yes.
Crop,
Aye.
Zimmerman,
No.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Abstain.
Okay, so it's added to the agenda. Do we want to add it to the end of new business then? Okay, that'll be number 12. Under new business. Okay, 40. All right. Under new business, ordinance 2021-14, if Mrs. King wants to go ahead and read it.
An ordinance accepting the petition for the annexation of 0.2619 acres, more or less, in Newton Township, Trumbull County, Ohio, to the city of Newton Falls, Ohio.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. If I can be
Yeah,
recognized.
you have the floor, Mr. Boriak.
Mrs. Pretty, who paid for this annexation, the cost of this annexation?
The city did.
Why is the city paying for annexation for a private property owner's property to get annexed? When did we,
It was prior to me, so I don't know why, but I know the city did pay for the annexation costs.
Okay, anything else?
Mrs. City Manager, Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
You have the floor.
Mrs. City Manager, are we, how does this benefit the village? And what is the purpose of this annexation? Are we aware what the reasoning or what the desire for this annexation is?
I believe part of the property was within the city, is that not correct?
Yeah.
So the balance of it now, there was a portion of it that was not annexed in, so that portion is what is being annexed in now with the rest of the property.
Is there any way for the village to recoup the costs of the annexation since this was prior to your interim status? Is there any way to check and see if there's a way to recoup those costs?
I can ask the law director.
Mr. Tom is asking to use the mic, speak into the mic.
I can ask the law director that question, but
Okay.
that's...
then I'm going to make them, if I
That's
can,
all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
when I can have my second address, sir.
Okay, Ms. Spletzer, Mr. Granchi, Mr. Zimmerman, do you guys want an address on this?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Spletzer, you have the floor.
This is the property that is in Ward 3. It used to belong to Lyle Waddell.
Yes.
And part of his property was in the city, part of it was in the township. And I believe that by combining this all together, it just kind of, tidies up for the new owner. Mr. Waddell sold the property to this Zachary Crosby. So this just puts everything all conveniently nice together for Mr. Crosby. Mr. Waddell used to have a garage in the township, and that garage received its own separate utility bill. So by Mr. Crosby getting everything all put together as one big happy piece of property, he only has to deal with one set of property taxes and one utility bill. It just tidies things up for the new owner.
Okay, anybody else?
I was going to say that was my understanding of this motion as well.
Mr. Boriak, did you want a second?
I know in the past the city has picked up the cost on annexations. But I don't feel the city's benefiting anything on this right now. The guy that benefited on this was Mr. Waddell. And if he wanted to have it annexed, why didn't he pick up the cost? This is just another example of city dollars not being properly spent.
I think it's already been paid for, though. I don't think it's something that we're paying for now. Anything else before we go ahead and call for the roll?
I just want to say real quick that I believe Mr. Waddell did pay for that out of his own pocket, that it wasn't the city that paid for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. King, if you want to go ahead and call for the roll on this.
Mr. Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Franchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Okay, passes. All right, let me see what we got here. Okay, ordinance 2021-16, if Mrs. King could go ahead and read this.
How about 1.5?
Is it 1.5? Sure. Okay.
An ordinance amending ordinance 2014-09, an ordinance establishing pay rates and positions for the employees of the city of Newton Falls.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second, Rob?
I'd like to discuss, please.
Okay, you have the floor, Ms. Spitzer.
The thing that bothers me about this particular ordinance is that 2020-39, the last two pages of that 400-page binder budget book, said that 2020-39 overrode 2014-09. And I don't see any mention of 2020-39 in this 2021-15. So I think this needs tidied up, or you need to include 2020-39, the budget for 2021, because on the last two pages at the very bottom, in itty-bitty little types, it says, this overrides 2014-09. It's at the very bottom of the page.
Okay, is that all you have, Ms. Spitzer?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Purdy, is this basically, does this address the, what was it, D-pay or whatever?
Yes, this is the D-pay issue that occurred with a couple of employees. The language currently in the ordinance does not allow for D-pay, but it was occurring, so we were trying to clean it up with this ordinance. The supervisors agreed on the dollar amounts at the $3, and then time and a half is,
Yeah, what had taken place is Ms. Purdy walked into this and found out that as a supervisor is out, injured, sick, and an employee is the lead person, they step up and they take control. They were given a D-pay, a large figure or whatever it was, and it shouldn't have been, but it was signed off on before she came here, and she honored what was done previously because we didn't have anything, an ordinance to cover it. So what she's doing here is putting something officially there at a $3 increase, because you have the employee that steps up, which they should be rewarded for the responsibility, but we're saving money because it wasn't what was given before. I don't remember what the
what was given before was 50% of the difference between the supervisor pay and that employee that was stepping up's pay. So the $3 is much less than the 50%.
And when she filled myself in on what was taking place, and they put this ordinance together with it being administrative, she asked me if I would sponsor it. And I said, yeah, that I thought it was a good idea. So does anybody else have any?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Crop.
Just in reference to Councilwoman Spitzer had mentioned as far as the ordinances and the numbers that were listed and named, and actually Section 2, and I think this would clarify or cover that. It says any ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict with the context of this ordinance are hereby repealed. So as far as addressing, I think that would be the purpose of that language as far as the section is concerned in the actual ordinance, the full written ordinance as it's written. That's without Mr. Fritz here to clarify. I think that was my understanding.
If I can have the floor again.
Sure.
Tessa, just to answer your question also, as Kathy and I have had conversations about cleaning up those the ordinances anyway, and making one final ordinance inclusive of everything. and I think that needs to be done as far as the pays and things like that. So hopefully within the next couple meetings, we'll have that ordinance all done and cleaned up.
Mayor, may I have the floor?
Yes, Mr. Boric, you have the floor.
What, the suggestion then is to table this?
No.
No, I don't
No,
think so.
this covers it. That covers it.
Okay.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Boric?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I was clear.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, Mr. Granchi, do you guys have anything on this before we call for a roll, or? Okay, if there's no other discussion, if Mrs. King wants to call for the roll on this?
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Sputzer?
Yes.
Franchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
All right, passes. Third one here, ordinance 2021-16, if Mrs. King could read it.
An ordinance authorizing pay and expenses for the interim city manager Pamela S. Pretty and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'd like to discuss.
Okay, Ms. Sputzer, you have the floor.
Mr. Richards, I did listen to you speak at the beginning of the meeting. And I want you to understand that the emergency part of this is that when we hired Mrs. Pretty on the 9th, I was the one that suggested we pay her $1,500 a week, and payroll is due. So now we need to give the treasurer or the finance department something that says this is what Mrs. Pretty would like to be paid. She doesn't want that $1,500 a week. So before she gets paid the $1,500 a week that she doesn't want, we do need to pass this by an emergency.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may have the floor.
I get a question real quick, and I'll ask Ms. Purdy. And just so everybody knows that she's turning down the pay, the $1,500 a week, and what this is for her to just be reimbursed any expense if she goes out and goes to a meeting in Canton, so that she's not paying $40 for gas. She'll get reimbursed for that. But my question is, is there any way of doing it to where it's not an emergency, or is that not possible? I didn't know if there was a way of doing it non-emergency and it still hits before payroll, because I know that we have date
Payroll will
limitations.
we turned in payroll today, so
Okay.
it will be paid next Wednesday on it, so now.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that in case questions or anything.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yeah, and again, as Councilwoman Sputzer mentioned, Mr. Richard has commented about emergency legislation and things being submitted or, passed as an emergency. In reference to this, I think it's very important to state that when something's an emergency, that it's declared an emergency and explained what the purpose is, and just even expound a little bit more on what Ms. Sputzer had said. We try to, and we're going to continue to try very hard to satisfy and honor our charter and follow our charter language, what the charter states. And when you hire somebody like Mrs. Purdy, which is a chartered position, which is in our charter, it has to be done via pay ordinance. There has to be some sort of ordinance that states that what her position is, since she's a chartered employee, a chartered member that's recognized by our charter. So we're basically just trying to satisfy the charter and do right by that, and also satisfy the payroll as well. Hence the necessity for the emergency. Not the house isn't on fire, but there's a timetable at hand that we should have or need to have a pay ordinance in place to take care of that charter position, and that's what the need is for the emergency. So it's not just a convoluted use of the emergency declaration or something along those lines. It's very specific, which I think, as you know, and hopefully people understand that we've been very specific. If it's an emergency, it needs to be specified specifically what the purpose is for said emergency, not just call it an emergency. So that would be the purpose. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, if I may kind of piggyback off what Mr. Crump was saying.
Okay, you have the floor.
To pass an emergency is different than declaring an emergency. To pass an emergency is kind of to say we need this done rather quickly. We need to pass this now to get this approved. Right. And declaring an emergency would be like you said, like a lot of people say, the roof is falling in. All the tires blew up on all the police cars. We need to get them, that's an emergency. To pass something in emergency, to get something done quickly, is very different than having an emergency itself. So I agree with, passing stuff in emergency that needs done quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Boric, would you like the floor?
I have been on this council for 5.5 years, and I've watched some stuff that was an emergency go right through. I do believe this rises to the occasion, so we can keep the books straight. And this isn't like voting on a petition or a proclamation for the Cleveland Browns that we called a special meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning for an emergency. And it went. So, you know, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other addresses before we go ahead and call for a roll?
One more, Mr. Chairman, real quick, and just, again, just additional, just to expound even more what Adam said, Councilman Zimmerman, the declaration or something being passed in emergency is to eliminate having to do 2 readings. Essentially, we can pass both readings tonight, have it done, and have it effective, have it go into effect immediately. That's pretty much the purpose. It's not going to take a whole month, plus public comments and readings and that kind of stuff for this to happen, so it can happen tonight.
Okay. Mr. Granchi, did you have anything before we call for the roll?
I'm good.
Okay.
I have one more thing I'd like to say, please.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor.
That I am against this because I believe that the city manager needs to be a paid employee, regardless. Needs to be more than just expenses. Needs to be on the payroll as an interim employee. Needs to be documented that they're drawing pay, that they're drawing a salary, that they're on the books, that they're held responsible in that way. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before we go ahead and call for the roll? Okay. Whenever you're ready, Mrs. King.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
No.
Okay, passes. All right. Okay, ordinance 2021-17, if Mrs. King could go ahead and raise.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize to interrupt. When that's passed as
Oh, I'm sorry, you do need to do a second reading.
We need to do a second reading.
We need to do it again.
Yep, good catch. So we need to read that one again. So an
Yes.
ordinance authorizing pay and expenses for the interim city manager, Pamela Esprity, and declaring an emergency.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a
Second.
Okay. You want to go ahead and call for the roll whenever you're ready?
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
No.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Okay, pass.
Good catch.
Thank you. Okay, ordinance 2021-17.
An ordinance providing individual freedom of choice and prohibiting requirement of masks in public areas of the city municipal building.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
What is that, 17?
Yeah, it's number 4 under new business. Do we have a
Yeah,
second?
but I'm looking for the paperwork, excuse me.
Okay. Okay.
I must have put it together wrong.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? While Mr. Barks looking for that?
Second,
Okay, Mr. Barks.
or did I make the motion?
No, I did. I made the motion.
Second,
Okay.
It's this one.
yes. Is that the one you needed?
Mr. Chairman, if I may have the floor.
Yeah, you have the floor, Mr. Crop.
I'd just like to clarify that the purpose of the legislation, this ordinance that I've submitted, and Mr. Curlin actually had addressed and kind of asked the question as far as the teeth are concerned. This is a piece of legislation just to, I'm a firm believer, and I know we had somebody come up here and read a poem about 9/11 and about our country, and I think we can all agree this is America. We have a right to freedom. We have a right to expression. We have a constitution. We have all these things that we shouldn't take for granted, and I don't take those things for granted. So I wanted to make a declaration that I trust individuals, the people in this room, to make decisions for themselves. And this is not this piece of legislation nor the other piece of legislation that I submitted are anti-pieces of legislation. They're not anti-anything. I want people I trust and individuals' responsibility and the knowledge and the power for them to make those decisions for themselves, and I want to give people those powers. And I don't believe it's the government's position to tell people how to control their bodies or any kind of medical. You should have medical freedom and medical autonomy. That should be between you and your doctor. I don't want anybody to be forced to have to do anything that I don't agree with or you don't agree with. I think you should be able to choose. So that's really what was really the purpose of this legislation. It's not anti-anything or against anything, and neither is the other piece. I just want people to be able to come in here to our village hall where we have our village meetings and conduct our village business and not have to worry about being dictated to or mandated or forced, any kind of forced compliance for any reason above their own personal choices. That's really what this is all about. And I respect anybody's choice to do whatever they choose to do. And I respect your personal responsibility, and I just ask that people do the same for everyone else. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I would like to be recognized, please.
You have the floor, Ms. Blitzer.
Thank you. I would like to suggest that we amend the title of this, and instead of calling this the municipal building, I think we need to call it the administration building, because I spent quite a bit of time over at the courthouse this morning with the judge. And that's, the judge came in with his mask on. I don't want to see any type of confusion, because on the outside of his building, at the top, it says municipal building. So I think we need to clarify this and call this particular building the administration building.
Okay, to amend, do we have a motion to amend that just to rename it as, what's that?
Excuse me. Would it be easier in section 1 just to put the address after in public, so that it's city municipal building located at 612 West Broad?
That would probably be the easiest, simplest amendment fix. Clarification.
Okay, so do we need to go through and make a motion, get a second on that to amend it to that, or?
So we're not amending the title?
She's amending
We're
the
just putting the address into
to it.
paragraph 1?
To specify.
Okay. Then I'm good with that.
Mr.
As
Chairman,
long as
I'd
there's
like to-
clarification.
I'd like to make a motion to add or do I?
I don't believe we need to. It's a minor adjustment, and this is only a first
Okay.
reading, so I'll just correct it for the second.
I'm the one
Yeah.
that submitted, I should be able to, okay.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
I'm a firm believer myself in people, whether they want to wear a mask or they don't. What I'm looking at right now is we don't have a problem. Why fix something that isn't broke? We don't have the Secret Safety Service Director. I don't see we've had a problem. Anybody comes. Should we have an order dictated by the federal government or the state or even the county health board, this will all be for naught because they override. Any ordinance can be overridden by state or federal. So what I think is this, why don't we just let it alone, so we don't have any problems down the road. If it should become a problem, then I think we can address it. I myself know that Mr. Klein and Mr. Kropp are very, very pro-liberty and pro-rights. So what I would like to see is just not pass anything that might haunt us down the road.
Mr. Granchi or Mr. Zimmerman, would you like to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So my question would be, who, if not council, would make a mask mandate? And then who, if not council, would give them that power? You're not going to find anyone more pro-liberty than I am, trust me. However, I am not in the business of legislating what-ifs. What if someone comes in and swoops in and decides that we're going to have a mask mandate? We would have to give them that power, if it's not our power already. I don't agree with legislating what-ifs, and I can't support legislating a what-if.
Mr. Zimmerman, would you like an address?
Yes, sir. Just like everyone else is kind of saying up here, I unfortunately don't have a crystal ball. I mean, we can't see what's going to be coming up down the road, unfortunately. I would never dream of reaching out to the businesses here in town and say, we're going to legislate whether you can or cannot enforce wearing a mask in your business. I believe that would be overstepping our bounds to say that to the business owners, to the business managers here in town. I view the city manager as a business manager. I see that it is right, her right, to protect the people that work here in this building the way that they see fit. Unfortunately, we also have other people that use this building, such as Scope and whatever else, that may need additional protections at other times. So I just see this as a step of over-legislation. Some people seem to think it was over-legislating when we were forced to wear masks. So over-legislation, again, to try to fix something is not the answer. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody like a second address?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, you have the floor, Mr. Kropp.
So the reason I submitted this legislation is because, as many people may or may not know, I personally have dealt with this, and no one would have expected this or suspected that this would have happened. No one, as Mr. Zimmerman stated, no one has a crystal ball, and I never would have expected that I would have been at the forefront of having, my ability to participate in my own government's actions based on whether or not I was willing to comply with something I didn't agree with or didn't agree with, and I personally was subjected to that. So I understand how quickly something like this can happen. And to Mr. Granchi's point, we didn't. Again, when this happened before, we didn't know. Council assumed that council had those powers, and those powers were either I want to be careful with how I word this, but council basically didn't have that say. Council didn't have the authority, didn't have the ultimate decision-making power or process. It was made for them and the people in this building when they tried to come in. They were forced to do something maybe they didn't want to do. And if they didn't want to do it, they weren't allowed to participate in their village government. And that's unfortunate. And that's all this is just a protection. And again, that's why I stated at the beginning, the very first address that I made was, this is not an anti-anything. And if you or anybody else, any of the people out here, anybody listening or can hear me, wants to wear masks into this building or anywhere else for that matter, they are more than welcome. I applaud you for making your own personal choice. And that's really what it's ultimately about, is so this will protect people and give people ultimately the power of making choice. And that's what this is ultimately about. So as far as the what ifs are concerned, if something were to happen, we have something in place where people are able to make that choice, because just like we didn't know this was going to happen before, and the decision-making process and what it went into it, we don't know what could happen in the future either. And it's just a protection. And that was really the goal of it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, would somebody else like a second address?
I'd like a second, please.
Okay, Mr. Boriak had his hand raised.
Go ahead and get Mr. Granch.
Mr. Granchi?
To that point, if we were to legislate for this specifically, we are legislating the symptom, not the issue. If we are having a problem where council is having a power taken away from them, such as appointing a health director, safety director, whatever it was, we should be giving council that power and enumerating that power to council, not legislating a specific issue. If we have an issue with our power being taken away from us, then we should ensure that that power rests with council, not just legislate on onesie-twosies.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
I can see Mr. Kropp's intent is very honorable, but we're going back right now to when the previous council gave the city manager a very, very high power. I don't think that this council is going to give up its rights. We have some very excellent people up here, and should something become a problem, I think we can deal with it. I just don't want, there's too much legislation that's not necessary. I don't see anybody in here tonight, and if it wants to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. We're not going against the state, federal health board right now. And should something come down, we're going to have to live with it anyhow. So I just think it's unnecessary. I agree. I like Mr. Kropp's thinking, but I just don't think it's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request to remove item number 4 and item number 5 from the agenda this evening.
Okay. You sponsored them, so they're both removed.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rosenberg.
All right. Okay, number 6, resolution
That one too.
29-2021, if Mrs. King wants to read it.
A resolution adopting the budget of the City of Newton Falls, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022, and submitting the same to the county auditor.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so that's all right. Okay, any discussion?
Could we ask the city manager to weigh in on this a little bit?
Yeah, because I'd like to know, and we've had a little bit of communication on this, that number 29 and number 30, the next ones, they're the same thing, and I'd like a little bit of clarification on them if you could.
Mr. Chairman, can you just go get water?
Sure, unless you want one out of my box here.
Not water?
They're not cold, but they're wet.
Thank you, sir.
Originally, the documents that you had received before were attached to the wrong resolution. So what happened was, in order to clean that up, we corrected it, put the proper documents with each resolution. That's why the signature issue, there was an issue with the signature. So now you have proper documents in front of you that are attached to the correct resolutions. So It was just a cleanup from what was given to you before.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mrs. Pretty, may I have the floor, Mayor? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mrs. Pretty, was this discussed with the finance officer and this law director?
Actually, it was discussed with the law director on what documents needed to go with what. The other thing that was added was the CARES Act money went into
Yes.
the one document
Yes,
where
yes.
it needed to go
Yeah,
under
it
the
wasn't in
proper
there before.
column. Yes, so it was discussed with the law director and where that needed to go, and
It's in there now, I saw it.
correct.
Thank you.
Just estimates, correct?
What's that?
These are all just estimates, correct?
Correct. They're estimates of the upcoming budget, basically.
Every year it has to be filed with the county. So this is just giving them an estimate of the budget for the upcoming year.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, if not, if Mrs. King wants to call for the roll.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Swetzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, number 7 is Resolution 30-2021. If Mrs. King wants to go ahead and read that for us.
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make that.
Second.
That's her. Okay, any discussion?
I have a question, if I could have the floor, Mayor.
You have it, Mr. Bariak.
Mrs. Pretty, was this the one that sort of replaces the 24- the one we just vote? Yeah, I thought so. 'Cause I was
Correct.
looking at over the weekend. I just want to make that clear.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, if Mrs. King could call for the roll.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Swetzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
All right, passes. We're on a roll. All right. Number 8 is Resolution 31-2021.
A resolution approving the treasurer of the Village of Silver Lake to aid the city of Newton Falls, Ohio by assuming the duties of interim finance director for the city on a part-time basis under the conditions herein.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, was that Granchi?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would like to address, please.
Okay, let me throw in a thought here real quick, and it might kind of piggyback. There's 2 items here I'd like to see us amend. Number 1, ask Mrs. King, does I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding here with emergency on that. I don't think that was.
Yeah, originally we were going to do this as an ordinance with an emergency, so I had it listed under ordinances, but then when I transferred it down to resolutions, I did not put I didn't take the
Okay.
emergency wording off, but it is not, the emergency wording is not in the
That's
resolution
what I thought.
itself.
And
So
that's
it was
what-
just the
That's what Ms.
agenda.
Purdy said.
Titles and actor just needs to be, that needs to be crossed out as far as the title's concerned.
The title doesn't have it in it. Did I attach the wrong one?
I have 8 is Resolution 31-2021.
Oh, yes, on the
and declaring an
agenda.
emergency. Okay,
On the agenda,
okay.
just cross out as an
Thank you.
emergency, but the legislation itself does not have the
Got it.
emergency on it.
Yeah, I saw it. Thank you.
Okay, and my second thing here is I'd like to see this amended to remove under whereas while the city searches for a replacement in such position, and just leave it as in whereas the city of Newton Falls has requested that the village Silver Lake permit its treasurer to assume the role of interim finance director.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Okay, Bariak and
I'm sorry, can you point out where that's at? I'm not seeing.
What's that?
It ends at Finance Director Kathy. There should be a period there, and then while the city.
On which section?
The very top, first paragraph.
First paragraph under the title.
Oh, okay, I see. So stop it right at the word finance director?
Correct.
Yeah, just strike the part that says, while the city searches for a replacement in such position. Okay, and we have,
We had a first and second.
Get a first from John.
who was the first?
Mr. Bariak and Mr.
Second.
Granchi.
Okay, with that, and we just need a roll to amend
To
it,
amend.
and we discuss, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so.
So this is the roll to amend that
Yes.
ordinance. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Okay, and that's amended, so now do we need a motion to put it on the floor?
No,
correct?
it's already on the floor as
Okay, it's on
amended.
the floor. So,
Mayor.
Mr. Boriak, did you want discussion?
I have a question for the city manager. It doesn't say anything about him getting any pay. Is this because he's coming in on vacation from the other place? I couldn't understand that. I know it says half is medical, half of this, half, go ahead.
The final pay has not been negotiated yet. What Mr. Fritz said is once we do this resolution and get all of this in place, then we can discuss that as the next thing. The other issue was we needed to see what was in the budget to be able to figure out that pay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on this? Okay, if not, if Mrs. King wants to call for the roll.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Abstain.
Okay, passes. Okay, number 9 is a motion to set trick or treat for Saturday, October 30th, 2021 from 4 to 6 p.m. Somebody wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
That's her. Got a second?
Second.
I need to address. I looked in my Park and Rec's minutes, and in the Park and Rec's minutes, it says that trick or treat's going to be from 5 to 7 on October 30th. So we need to amend this motion.
Can I address?
Yes.
Tessa, I did ask Park and Rec if we could change the time, and they agreed to the time change.
Oh,
4 to
okay.
6.
Well, then my Park and Rec minutes didn't get changed.
Yeah, it was an email I just sent out this past week when the Kiwanis Club came in. We wanted to make it all continuous, do the cakewalk from 2 to 4, and then trick or treat would be 4 to 6.
Nice.
So they approved it via email that the time change could happen.
Okay, so I do have the Kiwanis Cakewalk email, but I didn't get the Park and Rec change. So we're going to do the 4 to 6 then?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if nobody else, if Mrs. King wants to go ahead and call for the roll.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, number 10, if Mrs. King wants to go ahead and read the motion.
Motion to direct the interim city manager to use professional search services to aid in the finding of a new full-time city manager.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Zimmerman, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Crop. Okay, I'm going to start off in the discussion here, and some individuals here talked about this a little bit, and my own opinion, personal opinion, is I don't think this is a very good idea, and the reason I'll say so is to spend large amounts of money for basically a headhunter I don't think is necessary to give us basically a polished up resume of who knows what we're getting when we can go through Ohio Means Jobs and have them line up a city profile for what we need. I have a contact person. They'll come in, they'll talk to the city manager, they'll set up the job description, put it online, and they'll do it. And this is the part I really, really, really like. You have the headhunter, you have Ohio Means Jobs. They'll do it free of charge. So I think that kind of speaks my language. Plus, they'll give us quality work there. And then it'd be nice then to get the resumes, have our own committee here in town of residents, business owners and such, to look through those resumes, then to say, hey, here's a nice one, here's a nice one, here's a nice one, to council, and to go through them. But I just don't see the point in bringing somebody in to do something we can have done for nothing. Yeah, if there's anybody else that wants to weigh in. Mr. Bariak.
The city managers, there's a magazine, I think Mrs. King knows, where we can advertise in that. There's ICMA Managers Association. There's that. We could, what I'd like to do is advertise it. Last time we got 23 or 25. Mrs. King, do you remember?
No, it was 25 or 30. Yeah. Up in there.
The bottom line is this council's job as an elected official is to go through the resumes. I think we need to have the individuals, whoever it be, better vetted. We need a vetting process. It's more outreaching. And the bottom line is we're going to stand for who we want in here. That's the council's job. I don't think a guy coming in here with some company that is going to be able to tell us any better than this collaboration of these council members that to have the final say so. Yeah. And I just think it's unnecessary right now. I think it's unnecessary.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I was just curious if either Mr. Zimmerman or Mr. Kropp have any price figure on this. Because if we don't have a price figure and we don't know how much money we have, I think this is irresponsible to even entertain.
He's talking about money.
There's no price figure involved yet, but it all depends on, I just know from doing different searches for different companies that I've worked for, that depending on what level you want, you pay different amounts, depending on what kind of service you're looking for too. But my question, or my main point of doing this, or did you want to continue, or you're all done? See, my main point in proposing this was that I was hoping to have an unbiased filter, someone that we could have resumes sent in, someone that can unbiasedly pick 5, 10, whatever number we choose, provide here to council, that we can sit over and review. You're looking at council up here was responsible for probably bringing in the last 2 city managers.
Point of order.
So, I mean, that's where...
What's your point of order?
My point of order is, are you telling me that I'm biased, sir? You're saying an unbiased? Are you referring to this council, this honorable council, as being biased?
I just said...
Now, wait a minute. What did you just say?
I said we need an unbiased outside opinion.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Mr. Granchi?
I can't get past the fact that if we can't, I'm not saying I'm even necessarily against it as much as I'm saying that this is not even remotely the time to be looking at this without anyone in charge of our finances right now. We don't know how much money we have. We don't know how much money it'll cost. This is largely irresponsible to even entertain at this point.
Well, I don't know if it doesn't pass, I don't know if I need a motion from council to have an individual from, like I said, Ohio Means Job, come down and talk to Ms. Purdy, can talk to Mrs. King of setting up a profile, and like, you can use whatever terms that you want, but these are professional individuals to put it out there, and there's no charge. They'll put exactly whatever we want as a community, whatever we're looking for, they'll put it out there, and you'll have the resumes roll in. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying if this doesn't pass, I don't know if we need a motion to do so.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Sure.
Maybe that's something that we could deal with in the Finance, Audit, and Administration Committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a first?
Sure.
To address a couple of the issues and some of the questions here, the language here, as far as this legislation is concerned, doesn't specify a whole lot. It doesn't specify which professional search services will be used. It could mean, Mr. Chairman's recommendations. It could encompass many different services, whether they're paid services, free services, services at our disposal. But my concern, and the reason I wanted to co-sponsor this, and when it was approached and was brought to me, was if anybody's aware of what's happened here in our village over the last several years, decades, we don't have a good track record until like just now, bringing in an interim city manager. It doesn't appear to be a strong track record of bringing in people that the village is satisfied with or happy with. And I don't think it's wrong to bring in a firm to assist, make suggestions. Again, a price point or a cost at this point, hasn't been determined because we don't know which professional service would be utilized, whether it be a free professional service or a paid professional service or a coupling of the two. Either one can be beneficial. But to Mr. Bardak's point, no one's claiming that this is a biased or unbiased body. The fact of the matter is there's not a good track record of long-term success in selecting an executive level position for this village. Whether we like it or not, this village is a multi-million-dollar business. It's a corporation. We're trying to run a business of this village. We need somebody who's qualified and a professional search service that could assist, not be responsible for. Again, let me preface this by saying, ultimately this council will have the decision, or the council body will have the decision on who this individual is going to be from all the candidates that are found, whether we find those candidates, whether a professional search service recommends candidates or helps find those candidates. At cost or for free, or like I said, some collaboration or some collective, some grouping there. But I would liken it to this. If we wanted to build a skyscraper here in town, would everybody out there be willing to have their office on the top floor if we just hired any old willy-nilly company to come build that skyscraper? Or would you feel more confident if we had a professional builder or somebody recommend those builders that build the foundation and build all the steel and do all the electrical and do all the water and plumbing and all those other things? I mean, you have to ask yourself, honestly, would you trust that? That's really what the thinking is behind this. As far as the timing is concerned, I can't speak to Mr. Zimmerman's as far as his timing, but the reason I was happy to co-sponsor this is because there's not a timetable. There's not a time attached to this of how long. It's not a 30-day window or a 60-day window. It's just a request the village manager to seek professional services in finding a future city manager, a long-term, full-term city manager. That's really all it is. We're not hamstrung or handcuffed by any of this stuff, but I think we owe it to the village to utilize all of our resources, whether that be professional services or some collection, to aid us in doing what's right for the long-term health and the future benefit of the village. And that's what this is all. That's really what, in my mind, that's what this is about. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman, did you want to weigh in before we see if anybody wants a second? No, I'm good. Okay. Anybody want a second rest? Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
We had the last time we went for city manager, we weeded out, we all came down to 4 choices. We went for the people that had 35, 40 years experience. One was this, one was that, everything like that. As far as I'm concerned, I feel I'm very, very capable with some input from the people around, if we have a vetting committee, to make a decision for this little town of 4,400 people. We're not advertising for New York City. I'd rather have somebody, if we can, homegrown. I'd like to have somebody that knows and cares about this community and give them a shot. I don't think we have an outside company right now, YSU, we pay them $30,000 a year to get our grants. We have a lot of other outsiders helping us. We need somebody in here that can maintain this city on a day-to-day basis, have a little bit of knowledge on economic development and a background in finance. We don't need somebody that's got a doctorate, cum summa, bumma laude, because the last time we went, some of them, the price tags, they started at $120,000, $130,000. We couldn't go there. And by the time, we got to the people that we came, I just thought we overthought it the last time. I would like to try to get a vetting committee and try to see what we can do ourselves, because the bottom line is this: we're responsible for our vote. And I can read a resume, and we have no trouble in having everybody apply. No trouble at all. So I just think it's not necessary. And we don't know a cost to this. There wasn't a cost coming to us. Me to pass something without a cost is like, I found out we paid $8,100 for that bridge. Bridges to Babylon, I call it. $8,100. I want to know the cost of what we're spending on. I'm supposed to be a good steward of the taxpayers' money, and when they voted for us in here to put us in office, they voted us to represent them, not as some guy from California or God knows what company. So I'm not for this at all tonight.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on this before we go ahead and vote?
I'd like a second address, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Kropp, you have the floor.
I just want to reiterate, I think it's important. I think people need to realize and understand when you're talking about an executive level position, paying an executive level position or someone in an executive position $100,000 a year is normal. That's, you get what you pay for, typically. And if you do a good vetting process and you get somebody of quality, paying someone $120,000 a year to come in and potentially bring in revenue, bring in their experience, bring in their knowledge and their background to benefit the community as a whole, that's a drop in the bucket. If you spend $10,000 to make $100,000, you do that every day and twice on Sunday. That's just smart business. Now, finding the right person, that's another story. That's important. You can swing and miss over and over and over again. We can't afford to swing and miss in this village. We've swung and missed several times. We can't do that again. We owe it to, we as a body, this council, whether it's me sitting up here, anybody else, whoever holds this position, owes it to the community to find the right people for all of these positions, not just the village manager position, but all the positions. We need people that are not only professionals in their position and have the background and knowledge, experience. All those things those are the standard. That's not just like we're poking and hoping, those are the standard. You have to just be qualified just to meet the level of putting in a resume or an application. Then they have to have the other qualities, the other important traits. How do they work with people? What kind of person are they? Are they cooperative? Are they collaborative? Can you talk to the people that have been around them for years and years and have worked with them? Are they helpful? Are they beneficial to their areas and to their community? On top of the fact that they're professional, they do a great job. They show up when they're supposed to be there. They answer the phone when you call them. They're, again, like I said, collaborative. They're in the community. All these different things. There's so many different boxes to check. We have a duty to do that, but getting help in doing so and spending a little bit of money, if that's the case, again, there's nothing here that says we're going to spend money, but the idea of bringing in professional people to help and assist, make sure that we don't swing and miss this time, and we get somebody that's going to benefit this community for hopefully a long period of time, not just a year or two, that's going to help this village grow and be stable. We haven't had stability in this community for a long time. Stability is what we need. And there's nothing wrong with bringing in professional search teams or search services or utilizing all the resources at our disposal to bring in the right people and also sorting out the wrong people, because there's plenty of wrong people out there. Unfortunately, we've had our share of good and bad. So I don't think it's too much to ask to do our due diligence and to use all the resources at our disposal to hire somebody who's going to benefit our community for a long period of time and check all the boxes, every box, professional, personable, all those different things. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before we go ahead and call for the roll?
Like I said, with the mask mandate issue that we came up with, I'm not in the business of legislating what ifs. It could be free. We could use Ohio Means Jobs. We might be able to do it for free. Like I said, I'm not necessarily against this in its entirety. What I'm against is voting on legislation that does not have a price point attached to it. So I can't support something, if we don't know how much we're spending, I can't support it.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zimmerman, you have the floor.
Just real quick, this is a very crucial position for our company, for our city right now. I'm caught up on Mr. Kropp saying that this is a virtually viewed as a $14 million corporation, which I tend to agree with. So I got kind of caught up there myself. But we have a lot going on. We're headed a lot of different directions. Mr. Lynch has been resigned for 4 weeks now, and have we even put this position out there yet? Have we even started a search for a new city manager? If not, I want to know why. We're up here making changes and stuff, but we have yet to look for our new city manager. The city manager should be part of the changes we want to make, not just handcuffed by what we want to do. Thank you.
Did I have two addresses yet?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sputzer, did you have anything before we go ahead? Okay. Ms. King, if you want to go ahead and call for the roll.
Bariak?
No.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Splitzer?
No.
Granchi?
No.
Okay, fails. I don't think I heard that.
Good.
Okay. Okay, number 11, a motion to amend and update council committees. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Crop, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Boriak.
May I be recognized?
Yeah.
I think if we could just simplify it by if we would just simply say, replace Mr. Granchi's name with everywhere that you see Braymeyer.
Okay, and that's...
I'm good with that.
Okay, and that's...
I'm good with that.
Good with that?
Just
Okay.
plug and play me on that.
Civil service, utility, public works, and public safety, am I wrong, or is that correct?
Yes.
Mayor,
Mr.
have I
Bryant.
recognized?
Yes.
There never was an alternate put on. I'll be glad to,
Utility.
I'm glad to do that, but we should have an alternate on the Utility Appeals Board. I would hope that
Okay.
we would put somebody there. Look, I have usually they're at 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody here has a job, but I can get away from my job, so I don't mind doing it. I won't be missing it. But in case something happens to me, maybe we should have an alternate there too.
We don't have anybody named as an alternate for you.
We don't have anybody for an alternate.
Can I maybe recognize, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Mrs. King, do we have, was there previously, do we have a record of who the previous alternate was for the Utility Appeals Board?
I'm sure I do back in my office. I just don't remember offhand.
I'm just curious which ward potentially, if there's a ward that was associated with that alternate, if it was ever voted, just to give us a jumping off point since there's just a
I
blank
do think that the previous alternate was Braymeyer.
for the Utility Appeals Board.
No?
I don't, yeah.
Oh,
Who was
it may
it?
have been Alberini then.
Oh, that's right.
So it was
It would have been Alberini.
it was council at large.
Okay.
So are you going to take that, or is Granchi taking it?
That's up to him. Since it's not, we don't have it named, do we need to, we might as well address that, right? Shouldn't we address that tonight? So every one of them are all addressed?
I would think, since it's sitting right
Who
here.
wants to take that one then?
Utility
Who would want to do
I'm
that?
happy to give a Utility Appeals as
You
well.
already have 4. I'll take another one.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a Granchi.
Unless anybody's opposed, yeah.
Granchi under Utility Appeals, Granchi under Public Safety,
Utilities, Public Works.
Granchi under Utility Public Works, and then Granchi under Civil Service. Is that correct?
That's what I got.
Yes.
Okay, and is there any other discussion on that before we call for a roll?
Hey, Granchi, you want the tax review board?
No. Sure don't.
Swing and a miss.
All right. Okay, so if Mrs. King wants to call for the roll on that.
Crop?
Aye.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Okay. Passes. Okay.
Number
last
12 would be the
but not
motion
least-
for Mr. Coons.
Terry Coombs.
Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion to appoint Mr. Terry Kuntz on the fire board.
I make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
Splitzer is a second. Any discussion?
Like, Mayor, if I may be recognized.
Sure.
I don't want to rehash what I said before, but as far as somebody that's very knowledgeable about the fire board, served this community honorable, impeccable credentials, and he's well-liked and able to work with everybody, I think that just the expertise he brings and his demeanor qualify him for this post.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if no other comments, if Mrs. King could call for the roll.
Zimmerman?
Abstain.
Splitzer?
Yes.
Franchi?
Abstain.
Bariak?
Yes.
Crop?
Aye.
Okay, it doesn't pass because we have 3 and you need 4 to pass in an added item. Okay, so public comments, open to non-agenda items. If somebody wants to step forward, give your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Tom Colosimo, 4196 Carson Salt Springs Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the Newton Falls Area Commerce Association. This Saturday, September 11th, we will be having music in the park again at Commerce Gazebo by the Falls, 6 to 9 p.m. Speed Limit Band will be playing classic rock, and there will be food vendors set up as well. Saturday, October 23rd, from 10 to 4 p.m., we'll be having our second annual Autumn in the Falls. The road would be closed for this event on West Broad Street between Center and South Canal. There will be food vendors set up, as well as artisans, crafters, antique, collectible, and vintage toy dealers. Spots are still available to sign up as a vendor at $30 a spot. You can sign up online at the Newton Falls Area Commerce Association's webpage, Facebook page, excuse me. The new Commerce Association building at 17 East Broad Street is moving right along with pressure washing and painting the outside of the building this month. Inside construction is going well, and we hope to be open for business soon. And I'd like to thank Chris for coming out this weekend and helping me move all the garbage out of the basement. Thank you.
I just wanted to commend Mr. Crop and the council in general for resolving matters, doing it intelligently, listening to each other, making people aware of what's going on. That was very refreshing. Really was. Really was. I also wanted to make an announcement, and that is that I understand that Santa Claus is going to be at the VFW, the Dart League auction on November the 7th from 12 to 6. This is held each year by the Dart League on November to help the children of Newton Falls. And it is tremendous. We hope everyone gets out to the auction, and if you're good boys and girls, you can stay on the good list. I also wanted to let you know about an event coming up for one of our charities in Newton Falls. Yes, sir.
Where was the address? I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's at the VFW.
VFW, thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thank you.
On December the 4th, we are having a special breakfast with Santa and Mrs. Claus at the VFW from 9 to 12. And there's going to be a tremendous breakfast, and someone sent me something so that I could tell you what to eat. And it's going to be sausage and eggs, and it'll be a lot of fun. There's also going to be a Nintendo Switch drawing for the children. And something a little different that they're going to do this year, the 444 The People charity group, they're going to have an auction, and it's going to be with children's baskets, so that the parents will be able to bid on baskets for their children. And we're really looking forward to it. I spoke to Santa and Mrs. Claus, and they're very excited about doing something different. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can see the parents, I can see the kids saying, "Dad, please buy a ticket on that. I like that." But it's really excitable what's going to happen this year. And these are two events that I wanted to make everyone aware of. Two very good groups. 444 The People is a charity that has helped many people in this town, and they will continue to do it. Lastly, again, I congratulate Mr. Crop and City Council. It was fun to watch tonight. Thank you.
Anna Eby, 50 West 9th Street. I just have two comments to make. I understand where you're coming from, Brian, on, wanting to get the best and everything here for the city. But my first comment is, you could spend millions and get somebody crappy. Look at our president we have right now. Come on. And my second one is, it's freezing in here. Aren't you guys cold? I am freezing. That's it. Thanks.
Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. So first I want to brag on some city employees. Sunday afternoon, as we were having our 11 family reunion, I got stung by a bee and went into anaphylactic shock to the point where my blood pressure went into orthostatic hypotension, and I went to tachycardia, and my oxygen slipped into the 80s. And my daughter ran outside and told my husband, Mom passed out, and family members were calling 911. And our amazing, absolutely 100% amazing EMTs that I call the weekenders, they say they work every weekend. I have no doubt that these 4 gentlemen saved my life. They worked very hard. I've learned my lesson. I got EpiPens. But these guys saved my life, and they were amazing, and I can't thank them enough. They are truly a credit to their profession and the community, and I thank them with all of my heart, because they went and got there when they did. I'm not sure anybody in my family knew how to do CPR, and it was getting close to that. So, and as good as that is, and I thank them with all my heart. And if they're watching, guys, you're getting cake this weekend. I want to talk about another employee, and I'm not very happy with. Many of you remember in February I brought up about a phone number and being harassed by the former city manager. I learned this week that the phone number that I questioned Mr. Lynch about was actually retrieved by Mrs. King when I left no phone number from my electric account 7 years ago that's been closed. And funny thing was, let me grab my phone, there's actually, I would like each council member to go home and look up Ohio statute 2913.42. And it's tampering with records. And what's even funnier is this phone number right here. When I opened this account, my first account in 2010, my last name was Billock. Anytime there's a change, and this is from, I got this from Miss Pretty. We had a nice long conversation Friday. On the back of this right here, there's an audit trail on one of these, but there's an audit trail. It took 3 times to get the right information from the girls in the utility departments too, by the way.
Okay, Mrs. Lemon, make sure to wrap up your point.
I am.
You're running out
I'm
of
right
time.
here with this. This right here is the audit trail with all the fields. When my name changed from Billock to Lemon, it should say who did it, date, time, all that. There's nothing. So magically my name changed from Billock to Lemon, which the SSI system assured Miss Pretty it can't be done, but proof shows it's been done. So in all fairness and equal opportunity, there's a lot of stuff that's being messed with here, and you guys vote to bring in an interim finance director. I'm asking that you guys do the same thing for a city clerk, and that she be suspended. If you guys want to see the proof, I'll gladly scan and email it to you. You guys can make all the copies you want, because it's wrong. It's 100% wrong. You don't mess with people's. My social security number's wrong on 2 of these accounts. That's my social security number. That's how I'm identified by our country. It's how you guys are all identified. You don't mess with people's social security numbers, and you sure as heck don't put the full 9 digits on a receipt. And that is being done, and that needs to stop.
Anybody else? Okay, if nobody else, we'll go into closing remarks. Mr. Zimmerman, you have anything?
Yes, sir. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Granchi. Nice to see a full council up here. Look forward to working with you in the future. And just Mr. Kropp, when I received my agenda on the other day, on Friday or whatever it was, I was surprised to see that you were a co-sponsor on my motion. In the future, I would appreciate a courtesy phone call, email, text message to say that you would like to be a co-sponsor. Just some sort of notification, other than just not being aware until I receive the agenda. I think that courtesy should be extended to everybody. I wouldn't do that to you, but I would expect that in return. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
That's all that I have.
Mr. Bariak? Just a couple things. I think it is a good idea that this council talk it over with the city manager about getting a contractor in here that's qualified, first of all, and gives a good rate, and his work is good. And I know we can save the people in this town some money. Some people only need one block. And if he's pouring a whole street or half of a street, I think that we could save money, and also, but we have to get the right contractor.
The sidewalks?
Yes. Also, I wanted to put this on, I'll probably put it back on, about the fire board, since we don't want to give anybody interviews, which I thought would be, so I could find out who had the experience and who didn't, and who was better. I think that we have to pick somebody. We have to pick somebody, and I would hope this council would look at the most qualified, and I'm sure I'm not going to be biased. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Bletzer, you have anything?
Yeah, just quickly, one more time. The next Park and Rec meeting is Tuesday, September 28th at 5:30. And then I will give one more plug for the Pluck a Duck on November 7th from noon to 3.
All right. Okay, Mr. Granchi.
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out for my swearing in. My parents, friends I deployed with, made their way down here to see that, so I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
And then I appreciate everyone up here. We had some good debate tonight, and I'm glad this is the direction we're going in.
All right. Mr. Kropp?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Elena just ran out of here. I wanted to thank her for, well, please convey my thanks. And I think I can speak for everybody else up here. We appreciate for her to come up here reading her poem, and for the dedication into that was very sweet, and we really appreciate that. And I just want to reiterate some of what my colleagues have mentioned. The ability for us to be able to sit up here and do work and communicate, express our positions, how we think and how we feel, and to go back and forth is the job. That's what we're supposed to be up here doing, and being able to articulate those things to the public so you guys have a better understanding of where we stand, what our positions are, why we think the way we think, why we submit legislation, or why we vote a certain way or why we don't, or that's the whole purpose of what we do up here. So I'm glad to see a full body up here, which is great. I'll be excited to have our full staff as well, to really feel like we can give our all to the community and really do a full slate of work moving forward. As far as the purpose of the legislation and why we do it, it's so we can talk to you guys and let you guys know what's going on. And to my colleague, I don't know that I'm not going to apologize for co-sponsoring legislation. It means I supported the legislation, and I don't know what kind of courtesy me supporting legislation that you submitted is the courtesy. So that's kind of how I view that. When I submit legislation, if you'd like to co-sponsor it once it's sent out, I suggest you be my guest. That's the whole purpose, is that the people can see when they receive the agenda who supports what before it's even been discussed on the floor. And that was kind of the whole idea behind that, as well as names being attached. I supported the legislation, and I discussed exactly why I did, and so the answer to that would be no. I won't be giving courtesies to anybody about whether I'm going to sponsor their legislation. If you put out legislation that I support and I want to sponsor it, a co-sponsor, I'm going to co-sponsor it. And that's just the way it's going to be, and I think that's the way it was intended. So that's think that's the best way to go moving forward. And I look forward to working with everybody up here as well. This was another good meeting where we got a lot of work done in a relatively short period of time. And now we can adjourn the meeting and go about doing more business for the village. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. City Manager, do you have anything for us?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I meant to mention, there's a planning and zoning meeting tomorrow evening here at 6 o'clock too. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I only have a couple things, so we'll get ready to go home. But it just, while she's coming in, if we give Elena a hand, one more time. I think it's awesome that we see the solid students that we have coming up in our school system, in our community, and it just makes me happy to know that, when I get older, that's who our country is going to be in her hands, and people like her. So I think it's great. And Miss Eby, talking about the temperature in here, I don't ever complain when it's cold, but I'm one that I worked in a warehouse for a long time in 10 below zero weather, so I'm not a good barometer. The only thing I could say is we probably should, and I know when we go into our conference room, it's freezing in there, but to think about it is, so we should probably take a look and see at what some of the settings are, and I just kind of like look at it and think, well, what did this used to be? It was a church, and I think the temperature set a little bit low to keep people from falling asleep, because the seats that you're sitting in, I don't know if you know it, but seats are defined or regulated or whatever by comfort level. If you're in a restaurant, they're rated as like 15 minutes because they want you booming out. At church, a lot of times they give you a long comfort level, and these are pretty comfortable seats, so they would put the temperature as so. But so that yourself, I appreciate you being here. We probably should look. I see different individuals, hands turning blue. So, we'll try to do better at that. And the most important thing that I have here is I want to thank everybody on council, as well as Miss Purdy, Miss King. I do think we got through a lot of legislation tonight. I don't know what the total was, 15, 16 items. In a decent amount of time, we got to talk. Regardless of if you really agree with something, to put it on the floor is good, because like Mr. Kropp has said, we get a chance to discuss it. I'm not going to throw daggers at anybody, but I would say that the days of just ramming something through are probably done, that you get to hear and the discussion. I appreciate that. I took a class years ago on biblical conflict resolution, basically meaning that myself and Miss Spletzer, we could be totally opposed to each other on something, but if you handle it the right way and you have a compromise put out there and you have the best solution, what happens is two things. Number one, God is glorified. And number two, Newton Falls is glorified in that. And I see a whole lot of that coming in the near future. And that's all I have to say. Do we have anybody who wants to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay. Call for a roll.
Splitzer.
Yes.
Granchi.
Yes.
Bariak.
Yes.
Kropp.
Aye.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay, meeting adjourned. All right.